I have to move it around to here for a moment.
Okay, Iris. Oh, it's frozen again. Sorry, one sec. Oh. No, it's frozen. Oh, here we go. No.
Basically, they're just going around in circles.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for it to unfreeze. Being really long. No, it's not happening. Don't know what's wrong with it. Okay. Ah, there we go. Right. Okay.
Oh,
Iris, over to you.
all right, hang on. Oops, I'm having trouble now trying to get it larger. No, it keeps going back to small. Oh, well, I'll just have to try.
What's that arrow there? What's that?
I don't know. Oh, stayed. Okay. Isaac and Rebekah endure 20 childless years until their prayers are answered and Rebekah conceives. She experiences a difficult pregnancy as the children struggle inside her. God tells her that there are 2 nations in your womb and that the younger will prevail over the elder. Esau emerges first. Jacob is born clutching Esau's heel. Esau grows up to be a cunning hunter, a man of the field. Jacob is a wholesome man, a dweller in the tents of learning. Isaac favors Esau. Rebekah loves Jacob. Returning exhausted and hungry from the hunt one day, Esau sells his birthright, his rights as the firstborn, to Jacob for a pot of red lentil stew. In Gerar, in the land of the Philistines, Isaac presents Rebekah as his sister, out of fear that he will be killed by someone coveting her beauty. He farms the land, he opens the wells dug by his father Abraham, and digs a series of his own wells. Over the first 2, there is strife with the Philistines, but the waters of the 3rd well are enjoyed in tranquility. Esau marries 2 Hittite women. Isaac grows old and blind and expresses his desire to bless Esau before he dies. While Esau goes off to hunt for his father's favorite food, Rebekah dresses Jacob in Esau's clothes, covers his arms and neck with goat skins to simulate the feel of his hairier brother, prepares a similar dish, and sends Jacob to his father. Jacob receives his father's blessings for the dew of the heaven and the fat of the land, and mastery over his brother. When Esau returns and the deception is revealed, all Isaac can do for his weeping son is to predict that he will live by his sword, and that when Jacob falters, the younger brother will forfeit his supremacy over the elder. Jacob leaves home for Haran to flee Esau's wrath and to find a wife in the family of his mother's brother, Laban. Esau marries a 3rd wife, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael.
Small.
Nothing's happening.
You need to.
I don't think so. I didn't do it before.
Oh, no.
Oh, there.
Oh, no.
We finished, Rabbi?
The rabbi's on the mute, I think.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Right. Thank you very much. Right. So we're going to talk about the tragedy of good intentions. Why did Rivka tell Yaakov to deceive his father? All right, let's have a look. This is what she said. Who'd like to read? Oh, it's frozen again. I'm on. Right, here we go. Who wants to read?
I will, Rabbi.
Go.
Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go now to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat so that he may give you his blessing before he dies.
Very perfunctory, very clear, very brisk, and almost kind of to the point. She seems to have a plan, right? It's very, very strange. The situation, as far as we know, has only just arisen. Suddenly, Yitzchak says, I want to bless Esav. And now she says, oh, he's going to bless your brother. We have to come up with a plan. And she's got all the details ready. Don't know if she thought about this for years. She's grabbing the carpe diem, as they say, seize the day. Well, Yaakov raises his concerns, right? What if My father doesn't believe me. What if he touches my skin, knows I'm not Esav? What does she say? She says, who'd like to read this one?
My son, let
Go.
them fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me.
Right? So usually our question is, how could Yaakov deceive his father? You're not supposed to deceive your father. But really, the question is on Rivka. It was really her plan. Why did she think it was okay, A, to deceive her husband, B, to deprive her son Esau of his father's blessing, 3, to incite Yaakov to commit an act of dishonesty? He wouldn't have come up with this on his own, right? Let's see what the Torah says about him. It says, who'd like to read?
Sorry.
Go.
When the boys grew up, Esau became skillful hunter, a man of the outdoors. But Jacob became a simple man, raising livestock.
Right? Tam. Tam is like the simple son. We've said before. It doesn't mean someone who's a simpleton. It means someone who has is what we call in Yiddish a Parsha to Jew, a Parsha to Yid, somebody who's a straightforward person. They're not complicated. They're not somebody that would come up with this scheme. Yaakov was a simple person, straightforward, innocent, person of integrity. So she's basically corrupted him. So it's his mum behind all of it. So what's going on? We ask how he could deceive his son, but really he's being instigated by his mother. Right? And he bears the brunt. He's the one that has to leave afterwards. So the question is why? What was she playing at? Any thoughts?
Why did Jacob do what you said? I mean, if he's in danger,
Well, okay, you have to listen to your parents. I suppose it's a difficult one that if one parent says,
they tell you to deceive.
I think we're assuming that he was naive. So she took advantage of him. So what's going on? What's happening?
Maybe she thought he needed to go leave them and go to her family to get a wife. Maybe she was afraid he would get what she could only think of one way to get him out of the situation where maybe he would marry a local girl, a Canaan
Right.
or something.
So
Was frozen.
one simple answer is we know she loved Yaakov. She didn't like Esav as much. She knew what Yitzchak liked Esav. She liked Yaakov. She was driven by a mother's instinct to get her son a blessing. But
He should have had the blessing anyway. He was the rightful
she's-
owner of the blessing.
Oh,
She
Esau
knew that
was, although
from when-
Esau sold his right, didn't he?
the problem, she's Rivka Imenu, we call her. She's our mother Rebecca. She's not, Lady Macbeth, engaged in political, whatever, court politics. She is one of our matriarchs. She's somebody we look up to as a role model. So to simply say she had a favorite. Okay, the second possibility might be that she strongly believed that Esav was the wrong person to inherit, right? This is a guy that sold his birthright already. So she felt that a hunter, a man of the field, right, a big, strong, brawny man, wasn't the template of the covenant of Abraham. God chose Yitzchak, not Ishmael. Ishmael was the one who we're told was going to be a wild man. Yitzchak loved Esav. Yitzchak loved Esav for whatever reasons, but she didn't see him as the right kind of person. The third reason is the most simple one, which no one's actually said.
Maybe Isaac didn't know that Esau had sold his blessing to Jacob anyway.
Right.
So, but Rebecca thought that because Esau had already sold his blessing, his firstborn's right, he shouldn't get the blessing anyway because it belonged to Jacob now. Maybe she thought she was doing the right thing, but not telling Isaac that Esau had already sold the blessing.
Right. Sometimes you need to let them think it's their own idea, kind of thing. Or, you need to help them, save them from themselves. A lot of wise women save their husbands from themselves over the years by doing different things. Okay, there's a third reason, which is a simple one, which is the Torah says. Who'd like to read number 5? Who hasn't read yet? Anna, do you want to read?
But
Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger.
Okay. This is the Torah. It says the older one will serve the younger. The younger one will lord it over the older one. So we've got three possible answers. Number one, she simply loved Yaakov more, which is a bit, Machiavellian and sort of doesn't give her much credit as a person of integrity. The second possibility is she genuinely believed Esav was not worthy and was the wrong person. And the third possibility is that she was simply going by what she was told when they were in her womb. And she went to the base medrash and said, there's all this kicking going on. They said, yeah, you've got two nations. There are going to be two people. It's interesting, by the way, because we talk a lot about Ishmael and the Ishmaelites and their beef with the Jewish people, but Esav also, from his time in the womb, was kicking his brother and vice versa. What is the most obvious glaring problem or question in all of this? What would you say if you were talking about this with a young couple that's about to get married, and you were talking about the story where Rivka went behind Yitzchak's back and got Yaakov to dress up so that she could trick him into getting the birthright to fulfill the prophecy that she received? What's the glaringly obvious question you would ask?
Why didn't Rivka tell her husband
Right.
what had been told her about the Jew
Yes.
in her womb?
Why don't you just talk to each other? Yes. Did she share this concern with Yitzhak? Did he dismiss it, or did she not? So, what was their relationship like? Yitzhak didn't choose her, right? Eliezer was sent to bring her back. They come back, and she sees a figure in the distance. And let's see what happens. Who'd like to read? I think we're back to you, Iris, aren't we? Everyone else has read?
Okay. Now Isaac had come from Beer Laharoi, for he was living in the Negev. He went out to the field one evening to meditate, and as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Rebekah also looked up and saw Isaac. She got down from her camel and asked the servant, "Who is that man in the field coming to meet us?" "He is my master," the servant answered. So she took her veil and covered herself.
Right. Now, here's a fascinating commentary from the Netziv. I can't remember who the Netziv was. We could look up who that was. Well, so let's just read. So she took a veil and covered herself. She sees her future husband. She takes a veil and covers herself. Why does she cover herself? Who'd like to read?
Modesty. Shall I read?
Back to you, yeah, and I'll look up who the Netziv is while you do that, yeah.
Okay. She covered herself out of awe and a sense of inadequacy, as if she felt she was unworthy to be his wife. And from then on, this trepidation was fixed in her mind. Her relationship with Isaac was not the same as that between Sarah and Abraham, or Rachel and Jacob. When they had a problem, they were not afraid to speak about it. Not so with Rivka.
But wasn't it just really that this was the custom?
I don't know, was it?
That she should, until she was married, she needed to be veiled in front of a strange man.
No, was it? That's not what he says.
Well, that's what it says in the
Art scroll.
Yes, not the art scroll, the other one.
Was Rachel veiled when she met Yaakov? Was Sarah veiled when she met Abraham? I don't think so.
No, she wasn't. When she came to the well,
Rachel, Jacob, Rachel, he falls in love with. He sees her. And the Tzib, by the way, was Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, who lived in the 19th century, 1816 to 1893, in Belarus and in Poland. And he was the dean of the Volozhin Yeshiva. So I think it's a fascinating insight. So the Tzib says that basically it's not an equal relationship. Avram and Sarah, we hear about their relationship, Rachel and Yaakov, but Rivka, there's this kind of barrier. Their very first encounter, he's physically distant, he's mentally distant, he's deep in thought and prayer, and the first thing she does is puts up a barrier, she covers herself. In general, we find that Isaac is a very withdrawn person. He doesn't initiate action. A lot of his events in his life mirror those of his father, right? It says he dug the wells that his father had dug. The Torah often associates him with pachad, with fear. In Kabbalistic terms, he's often associated with gevura. Gevura means self-restraint or boundaries. This is the man that was bound as a sacrifice on an altar, who was only saved at the last minute. Could be the trauma of that. He has deep emotions that he doesn't always put into words. So it's weird. He loves Rivka on the one hand, but he loves Esav on the other. They're very different people, right? Who are they? They're both, what we see from this is that Rivka is an action person. Yes? She is brisk. She is quick to act. She is a practical person. So no wonder she hesitates before speaking to him. If this is the relationship they have, is she has a fear of him. And they don't necessarily have a sort of loving, strong, chatty relationship, maybe.
So maybe Isaac didn't sort of grow up. You said he was naive when he was younger. Maybe he hadn't
Yeah.
grown out of that.
Nowadays, you would say he would need a lot of therapy, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
His father took him and was about to slaughter him. So here's an interesting scene, and it's particularly interesting because I've seen a different explanation of it. There's another scene we see in this week's Sedra. There's a famine in the land. Isaac and Rebekah are forced into exile, just like Avram and Sarah. They go to Gerar, and as Avram did, Yitzchak passes off his wife as his sister, afraid that he might be killed, so his wife can be taken into the royal harem. I never understood this. Somehow, if it's your sister, it's okay, but if it's your wife, they'll take her from you and kill you. So what happens? Anyone remember this? How does Avimelech realize that they're actually a married couple?
Doesn't he see them doing something?
Yeah,
See them through windows doing something that husband and wives would do, but brother and sister wouldn't.
Let's have a look. Go on, who'd like to read? Jeff or Brenda?
I'll do it, yeah. When Isaac had been there a long time, Amalek, king of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing Batzachek, his wife Rebekah.
So metachek means almost to play, like Yitzchak, to laugh or to caress.
In the Chumash, the one, the Singer's one or whatever it's called, it says, it translates it as sporting.
Sporting, yeah.
With Rebekah.
Like they're mucking around.
Yeah.
Hold that thought, because there's a big question on that, which we'll come back to. So what's happening here? Yitzchak, which means to laugh and to play, he is playing around with his wife. And the one time he actually shows her affection is playing around with his wife. It nearly ends in disaster. Avimelech is furious that he's cheated him. So Yitzchak think maybe there's a message in this that we should be distant. No. Oh, someone's playing the piano. No?
It's Lisa.
So maybe not, but the point of the Netziv is that she wasn't sharing with him. She didn't share with him that she had this vision before the twins' birth. It was down to Asa. He wasn't able to communicate with him, and therefore, instead, she ended up tricking him. And her tricking him led to a whole series of tragedies, including his having to flee. I don't know who is distracting.
I think it's Julian. He can't get on. He's asked for
Julian trying to get on. Sorry, Julian.
John?
No, it's not.
The music's coming from Beryl.
Oh, it's Beryl. Okay, sorry, Beryl. I've muted you. Nothing personal, but we're hearing happy birthday or something. Happy birthday if it's your birthday. Okay, so
no,
we're going to come back to this in a minute, but it's all symptomatic of the same point. That why can't they just talk to each other? Why can't they just have a normal relationship? And the one time that he tries to relax a bit and fool around with her, he nearly gets killed for it. So in that context, then you can see the problem. Now, I'd like to just come back to this for a minute, because when I was in yeshiva, there was a guy who said, how can it be, you know, we learn about sniut and modesty. How can it be that Yitzchak would have been, anything he was doing that would have suggested she was his wife would surely have been something of a private nature, where they were kissing or hugging or chasing each other around the bedroom or whatever it was. Surely it would have been private. Wouldn't have been appropriate. What on earth was he doing with the curtains wide open so that everyone could see him and his wife fooling around together?
They seem to have been outside on the
Right.
ground level, where Abimelech was looking down from a window. He was inside upstairs. They were outside downstairs.
Well, so there's a commentary called the Kliyaka, which gives a very interesting answer. He says, would you really think that Yitzchak and Rivka would have been so public? No, he says they closed the curtains. He said, and when it says he saw, what did he see? He saw the curtains closed. He thought, that's strange. Brothers and sisters don't, close the curtains, don't need privacy. They're brother and sister. What are they doing? Closing the blinds. And from that, he inferred that there was more to it. So that's one of the commentaries, interestingly. So what's going on here? You've got Rivka. Why is she so quick to trick her husband? Why not just have a conversation? So we have to, unfortunately, come to the conclusion that communication is vital.
You're not there.
She's acting with good intentions, and she doesn't want to trouble Yitzhak out of respect for him and his privacy and his personal space. She doesn't want to upset him about Esav, the son he loves. She doesn't want to trouble him, telling him that it was predicted that the younger would dominate the older. That's all very noble. But what's the alternative? The alternative is she has to lie to him. She has to deceive him. Because with all her good intentions, she gets herself, it's always the tangled web that we weave, right? She gets herself into a sticky situation. And Yaakov ends up leaving because of all of this. And I don't know if Yitzhak knows the reason Yaakov is ostensibly leaving to find a shidduch. But it's all very, then she's having to lie to him for the rest of his life. So you have the tragedy of good intentions. Let's see what Rabbi Sachs has to say. In Julian's absence, I'll read it. Here we have a story of the tragedy of good intentions. Honesty and openness are at the heart of strong relationships. Whatever our fears and trepidations, it's better to speak the truth than practice even the most noble deception. So as noble as her intentions might be, and we're not, she's not doing this because she disrespects her husband. She's doing this to protect him. She's doing this because she genuinely believes this is the course of action that's required, and she wants to bring it about in the most effective way possible. But no good ever came out of these. I mean, ultimately he does get the birthright, but it's all very messy and sticky. No good ever came out of lying to your spouse. So we see from this that it's a shame they couldn't have just spoken to each other and communicated. Could be also that I doubt women had the same voice in those days. I don't know if husbands and wives would discuss things as equals in those days, like people might do nowadays. Quite possible the man had the final say, even when he was wrong. I don't know. But it's sad that they couldn't just communicate better. So absent that, you have this whole what do they call it? Skullduggery. What's it called? Skullduggery? Is that what they call it? Like subterfuge. And it ends in a mess. It ends with Esav wanting to kill Yaakov and Yaakov having to flee.
Mind you, Rebecca did come from a family that was had deceivers in it, didn't she?
Absolutely. So I wonder if any of the commentaries comment that she was just acting in the way she learned growing up.
Yeah.
Could well be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rabbi, I noticed when I was reading the Sedra last week, I got confused because Laban was Rebecca's brother. We don't hear about the father very much.
Right.
Yes, so I thought it was her father, but of course it's the next one. It's
Bethuel didn't seem to play much part in the betrothal, did he?
Yeah,
No.
he did all the betrothal and all the talking, didn't he? Her brother.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm just dealing with someone's trying to call me.
I think that's the number.
Did Rebecca know that Esau sold his birthright to Jacob?
Good question. I don't know. Did he tell her? Did they communicate? Usual story. Again, possibly not. Quite possibly not. All lack of communication, unfortunately. Never good. Never good. Open communication is the key. Even if it's uncomfortable. Yeah. Right.
Does it extend to a sort of a so-called white lie, or is that different?
So sometimes a white lie is okay, if, for example, to bring peace to a situation. If you tell a little white lie.
That story about Aaron going from one man to another, saying
one to the other and say they want peace. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a white lie, wasn't it?
Yeah. So sometimes it's okay, but here it's not a white lie, it's an outright deception. I think that's our concern,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, I'm going to the dentist, so I wish you all.
Oh.